this is Joy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to create a northern light sky using some of my favorite Maker Forte products. I am going to be using the Stargazer white rubber stamp set as well as the photopolymer Dream World set. And I'm using my favorite Eclipse black ink to stamp with. And I am going to be using the new Fresh Prints Muscle Car and Vega strip to create my background. I start out my card by stamping the fox from Dream World with Eclipse black ink onto smooth cardstock. I am using my Misty stamping positioning tool because I know that I'm going to want a couple stampings of this so I have a really dark crisp line because I want the texture of the artist drawn lines to be prominent. So during Inktober, I heard a few of you say that you would like to see some Copic coloring. So I am going to color this fox using my Copics, and I'm going to leave it in real time so that you can see it. I typically like using the E30 family for a fox as well as the warm grays. And that's just because this E30 family has a red undertone. Since the artist has put in a shadowed area, I am using my E39 and I am adding my shading everywhere that you see the heavy dots, so like where the back of the fox is. So if you're looking at this image, the fox actually has his head turned behind him and tucked kind of under his neck on top of his back. So that stripe is going to be the darkest part according to the artist drawn lines. So I make sure that the majority of that is the E39. And then on the right hand side of the face there is a shadow. So the majority of that is the E39. I am also drawing in a prominent shadow where the tail overlaps or is over the back side, so there would be a natural shadow there, and also along the bottom part of the tail and where the bum is, because that would be the furthest away from the light, so there would be a shadow. I come in with an E37 and I further continue those shadows, and so the majority of the areas that were drawn in by the artist drawn lines are the E39 and the 37. Now the E35 is going to be my mid-tone. What that means is that's going to be the color that you see the most. So you're going to see me, I added quite a bit of that on his snout. I left some areas to the top of the head to be lighter because you're going to have the lights, the northern lights kind of lighting that area up, so it would be the lightest part of the fox. I also used an E34 and a 33 to build the body. Now you're going to notice I left a white area on the tail in the center, and that's because I want to give it an illusion of it being round. So I've got a pretty good shadow on the top and bottom of that tail. And it's not until the very end that I take one swipe of color with my lightest color and add that to take out that white highlight. I also left a little bit of a highlight along his left side because the artist made it very known that the shadows were going to be on the right, like the light source would technically be coming in from the left. And here you're going to see I finished off that tail. For the ears, I bring in an RV32. You could do an R11. You could do an R20. I think the R32 is a more natural color. I got a little bit ahead of myself. I'm actually coloring what would be the white or the lightest part of the fox's face and tail. And since he is a critter, I am choosing warm grays. So I am only using two colors, which is a W3 and a W1. So where the shadows would be, which would be closest to the inner part of the snout, I put in the darkest color and then along the bottom part of the tail, and then I blended that out with a W1. I decided that I had lost some of my shadows. I like dramatic colors. When you look at things in nature, you see light bouncing, and what makes things come to life are the different saturations of color. So I come back in with my E39 and I make those really pronounced. If you don't like this style of coloring, you don't have to do it, but I'm going to tell you that on your cards, it's what's going to make your images pop. I then follow that with the E37, and I think I might bring in some of the E35, but I don't take this all the way down to like the E31 or the E33 because I want this high contrast on the fur of this fox. Now, if you wanted more texture for the fur, you could do some flicking motions. I did not want to get into all of that. I just wanted some simple coloring. Now, another thing that makes images pop are adding white highlights. So that area where there was the darkest shadow, there were dots that the artist had drawn in. So that gave me an idea that there should be some light popping. So I am dotting in some white gel pen there, and I am just doing that sporadically where those dots were, and then I add some lines how I want. Now I am going to start to stamp my background, and typically I put my paper in with a magnet, but because this is a background stamp, it takes up the majority of an A2 size, if not bigger. So I take a little bit of tape adhesive and I stamp that down. Now you're going to see that this is a much bigger stamp than my A2 card, and I want that to be the sky. I don't want the entire constellation to be the background. So I move my paper down, and then I see that the stamp actually is not going to fit in my MISTI where I want it to be. So here I am performing stamp surgery. This does not hurt your stamps in any way, shape, or form. In fact, back in the days, it used to be that we had to cut all of our stamps. None of them came separated. So I am positioning this so that the background will come about 2/3 down onto the page, leaving white space so that I can do the illusion of snow. I come in with my muscle car, and then on the outer side of that, I put the Vegas strip. In the center, I use the Fresh Prints. Now, I told you that Vegas strip is my favorite color in Color Hive Inks, and that is still true, but lime green is actually my favorite color of all time, so I had to make a Northern Lights with this. Now, I did not stamp this as far down as I wanted, so I am coming back in with the exact same inks, and I am extending this down all the way down to the bottom of the stamp. I think I kind of forgot that I had moved it up, and I got scared and didn't want to take up too much of my scene. And there's nothing wrong with, applying color more than once. I mean, when your color overlaps, you get all kinds of different depths and dimension, and that's what we want in our skies anyway. Now, what I love about the Stargazer stamp set is that the constellations are etched in, so they remain white. Now, because Color Hive Inks have those different edges on them, I went in with a foam applicator and I just dabbed it. I actually used my Vegas strip blender because I knew the other colors would not contaminate it. Now you're going to see I got a really nice blend. However, I have a harsh line. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to fix that because I want there to be, the blue where the night sky starts to meet the snow, and then the snow kind of melts off into an ombre. With dye inks, every time you add a layer, it gets darker. So you're going to see that the more even though I'm using a light hand with the muscle car, I am still creating a heavier line where that horizon is. And I'm not thrilled with that, but I am going to fix it So here I'm showing you that it just doesn't look right. I am bringing in this Snow Flurries ink, and I am blending that across that line. That does soften it. However, I don't want to go super heavy with the Snow Flurries because then I don't want this weird milky white line where I wanted blue. So there's kind of a happy medium in that. I still don't love the blend, so I'm taking a piece of scratch paper and I'm just ripping it, and I'm going to create the illusion of snowbanks or landscaping by inking the areas up. So I start out with, I think whatever was left on my Vegas strip, and it was a pretty dark line, and you're going to see it. That kind of picked up the green that was in there because I used that to blend my background. I don't care at this point because snow is reflective, so you want it to pick up all the different colors of your background. So here I go up closer to where that horizon line was that I didn't like, and I am bringing in actual Vegas strip, and I am lightly applying that with my makeshift landscape line. And this fixes it, my friends. Now I've got all kinds of different snowbanks in there, and I've got different tones of blues. I pick up the green from up above, and I think we're really killing it now. So I didn't want to continue with the dark color of the Vegas strip, so I come in with the muscle car. So I ripped another piece. One, I would get a different texture, and two, I would not contaminate the white area of the snow because, like I said, I want this to be an ombre. I also performed stamp surgery with my sentiments, and that's because I didn't have the die cut to cut it out. So I stamped this sentiment 3 times with Eclipse Black ink. One, because I want to emboss it, so I want this to be super juicy. That, and I really want it to show up on the background. So by applying clear embossing powder to the ink, it really makes this pop off the page. So that's just a little trick. I am making this a flat card, so I am putting this down with wet glue. So I would really love it if you've hung out with me this far to consider liking, subscribing, leaving me a comment. I love hanging out with you guys, and I love sharing all of my inky antics, my mistakes, my takes, my makes, and I just think that we can all learn from each other, and I would love it if you would come back to my channel and hang out with me again. A little trick that I use is I use my ink smushing tool to get a good adhesion with my panel. That way you get no warping or bubbling from using wet glue. My final little tip is I used some stickles where the stars were to make it shine and glimmer, and I love the sky. I would love to know what you think. Please leave me a comment below. And again, thanks friends for hanging out with me. Until next time, keep crafting. Be blessed. Bye-bye.